What's that?
I guess what do you mean by that? Like what?
Well,
if it's not...
I'll give you examples. I just heard at lunch, I guess it was, Max was saying Max and Tatini, as teachers, moved up to Ashland, Oregon. Mm-hmm. And now in Ashland, every Wednesday, something's happening. Yeah, tell us, what are the 4 or 5 things?
Okay, we have our sitting one of the weeks. We have a second life group one of the Wednesdays. We started a men's and women's group for one of the Wednesdays. And then the other Wednesday is just the group of Waking Down people meeting sort of as a peer group in their own mutuality group. Mm-hmm. It's one we have our teacher call. The other people meet together as their own mutuality.
Okay.
And then the 5th Wednesday we have a social.
And then if there's 5 Wednesdays, we have a social event, like a
Right.
party, potluck, or something.
Yeah. So when I say culture, I mean things appear that begin to be more like getting together and being together, having that be something we do. Now, many of us live at significant distances from others, so we have to find other ways to do this. And I mean, I'm looking at Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen lives in Fairfield. It's one of the highest concentrations of waking down practitioners on the planet. You know, here's to no tornadoes coming through. But we will create. There will be more of what Daniel's doing, more of getting together for a party, a potluck, whatever it may be. Something like church, dare we say it. Something like ways to get together. This is another aspect of the process that has not yet emerged, which is ecstatic enjoyment together. Raw, uncorked ecstasy. Slug it down ecstasy. I mean, I thrived on that in my earlier life. There hasn't been room for it yet to emerge because it takes a maturing culture to sustain that in this kind of process. So,
do you have any ideas what form that kind of ecstasy might take?
Well, plain old partying is a fine start. And also, if people want to get together and do chanting and things like that, those are potential. I mean, people need to find what works for them. Another way, by the way, is very simple that we've not made much of, but 3 times this week, tomorrow morning and a couple other mornings, I'll be here, or not here actually,
Building A.
Building A, for the early morning sessions. We'll do a little bit of gazing, much more microwave, and have at least 45 minutes of just meditating. And if we have enough of us there and are able to settle in well enough, at the end of 45 minutes, we'll be collecting our pieces from the walls. It's like, okay, back to something.
What do you mean by collecting pieces from the wall?
Come meditate. Let's see if you find it. If you release enough, you become so associated with the field of deliciousness that you kind of lose your bearings. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've just got a few minutes left. What else should be said? Michael?
It goes back to the very beginning of the talk. It goes back to the issue of the heart and its relationship to first life dharmas.
Yes.
And something you once said in North Carolina a few months ago.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Mike Murphy has a notion of the perennial anatomy as being very vertical.
Right.
And that's my experience of all the yogas.
Yes.
And at that time I said to you, well, I was experiencing this more as horizontal. And in listening to you, I began experiencing this more as radiating from the center. And so I would wonder, it's really a radiating but not irradiating. And so, why are we using phrases like ground of being?
Because we haven't come up with something better. I mean, you know, there again, the language problem.
Right.
If we can come up with better language, let's do it.
It just feels like all the traditional
Yeah.
words, abyss, ground, higher, those aren't capturing this sort of radiating of being, but
Yes.
that doesn't capture being.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
How about round?
Ground. That's good. Well, you know, actually this is good, Michael. Thanks for taking it back to the beginning. This is probably a good place for us to wind up, too. My feeling, if you look at my book, The Incarnation of Mutuality, which is, I recently have been saying to people, it's like the White Hat Yoga of the Heart on steroids. I mean, it's a seriously uncorked book, and hard to even keep putting out there because it's uncorked. I'm uncorked in it. But it's making some really important points about the mutual incarnation of what used to be singular and the radiant incarnation of what used to be vertically disposed. And that's another way of describing, a bit esoterically, what's going on here. There was and neither Ramana Maharshi nor Adida, though they realized the heart in their own way. And I remember Adida wrote in his first book, he said, this realization can be lived in any number of different ways. He made that acknowledgement. But neither of them were in a position to be able to explore the mutual discoveries that become possible when people are living this together. When, as Ted was putting it so beautifully today, that equality in being, is the rule, and the functional hierarchies are only in service to that. They don't overtake it. So at no point in this process does anyone get regarded as being so profoundly advanced that no one else can duplicate that kind of condition in their own way. So this mutuality, as we live out, in this core-generated way, this radical, organismic, sentient emergence, we're going to make many discoveries along those lines. And I want to say something also about the heart. It's not necessary for you to have experiences of a particular place in your body in the heart. It's not necessary for you to be able to articulate all of the, the refined, sophisticated, complex teachings and considerations of it. What is necessary is for you to become so authentic and integrated, like I was talking with Zoe about, that you are meeting your experience continually with strength, faith, joy,